Emily Carter, a 34-year-old single mother working 2 jobs, receives a phone call while she's on her short lunch break at the diner where she waits tables. She steps outside to answer it, expecting maybe her daughter's school or her landlord. Instead, a calm but firm voice says, "This is Jackson from Meadowline Collections. We're calling about the $78,000 loan in your name. You've missed 4 payments." Emily blinks, confused. "What loan?" she asks. "The personal loan taken 8 months ago," the man says, reading off details, her full name, her home address, her social security number. "I never took out any loan," Emily says, her voice cracking. "Well, ma'am, we have documents here signed by you. We also see someone named Derek Carter listed as a co-signer or coordinator. Does that name sound familiar?" Emily goes completely still. Derek, her brother-in-law, her dead husband's younger brother. Her stomach tightens. No, that's a mistake," she says, her breath turning shaky. "I didn't sign anything. I didn't take any loan." But the voice on the other end isn't angry. It's practiced, cold. "We understand this is distressing. However, until we receive payment or proof of identity theft, this debt is active and in your name." Emily hangs up without another word. Her hand shakes as she lowers the phone. She stares out at the parking lot but doesn't see it. All she hears is the number, $78,000. That could destroy her. She's barely covering rent and food now. Inside the diner, her manager is yelling about someone's messed up order. She doesn't move. Her eyes burn, but she won't cry. Not here. That night, at home, she plays the voicemail again, trying to hear something she missed. Her daughter Lily watches her from the hallway. "Mum," she whispers, "are you okay?" Emily forces a smile. "Yeah, baby, just tired." But when Lily goes to bed, Emily stands in the kitchen staring at the wall, heart pounding, breath ragged. "Derek, what did you do?" Her knees go weak, and she sinks to the floor. Emily sat on the edge of her bed late at night, a stack of bills spread out around her like a storm, past due notices, shut-off warnings, and red stamps. Her eyes moved across the numbers, but her mind was somewhere else, back to a day she tried not to think about. 5 years ago, her husband, Matt, had just died in a car accident. One rainy night, a phone call, a drive to the hospital, and then nothing but silence and white walls. She'd stood at his funeral holding Lily's small hand, completely numb. That's when Derek showed up, Matt's younger brother. He wore a black suit and had tears in his eyes. He hugged her longer than anyone else and whispered, "Don't worry, Em, I've got you." Back then, those words had felt like a life vest. A week later, Derek moved into the guest room. Emily had no strength to argue. People from Matt's side said it was the right thing. Family, taking care of family. Emily was still in shock, barely functioning. She was dealing with funeral costs, insurance, and trying to explain to a 5-year-old why her dad wasn't coming home. When Derek offered to help with bills, mail, and bank stuff, she let him. She thought he was being kind. In the beginning, he was. He cooked sometimes, took Lily to the park, handled phone calls that made Emily want to scream. "I'm good with money stuff," he'd say with that easy grin. "Let me handle it. You focus on Lily." So, she let go. She stopped checking every envelope. She stopped asking questions when things got paid. She wanted to believe someone else could carry the weight for a while. But after 6 months, Derek left, said he was going to California for a job opportunity, left behind a few boxes and a note on the fridge. "Thanks for letting me crash. You'll be okay." She hadn't seen him since. Emily sighed and looked down at her bills. Her name was on everything now. The loan, the debt, the judgment letters. She flipped open an envelope and scanned the text. Immediate payment required. The balance was more than she made in a year. She rubbed her temples and stood up. The floor creaked under her bare feet as she walked to the small kitchen. Lily was asleep in the next room. Emily opened the cabinet to find instant noodles and stale cereal. That's all they had left until payday. How had she ended up here? It wasn't just the loan. Things had been tight for years. She worked at the diner during the day, then cleaned offices at night. Sometimes she skipped dinner to make sure Lily had enough. The car needed repairs she couldn't afford. Their rent was 2 months behind. She picked up her phone and stared at Derek's number. She hadn't deleted it. She never called it either. But now her finger hovered above the screen. Instead, she called someone else. Her late husband's mother, Janice, answered after 2 rings. "Emily?" Her voice was cold, surprised. "Hi," Emily said softly. I need to ask you something. A pause. Go ahead. Do you know where Derek is? Silence. I got a call from a debt collector, Emily continued. Someone took out a loan in my name, and they said Derek was listed as a coordinator or co-signer. I think he used my name, my information. Janice gave a sharp sigh. That doesn't sound like Derek. I saw the documents. My name was forged. He wouldn't do that to you. He's your family. Emily felt her chest tighten. He's done things before, hasn't he? That's not your business, Janice snapped. It is if he stole from me. Another long pause. You should be more careful who you trust with your information, Emily, Janice said flatly. Maybe you gave it to him without realizing. You were a mess back then. Emily's throat burned. I was grieving my husband, your son. Exactly. You were unstable. Maybe don't try to ruin Derek's life now because you can't handle your own. The line went dead. Emily stood frozen, the phone still in her hand. A wave of shame and anger crashed over her. She wanted to scream. Instead, she slowly put the phone down and leaned against the counter. She had no one. Her husband was gone. His family had turned their backs. And the one person she trusted during her weakest moment had stabbed her in the back, quietly, with a pen and paperwork she never saw. She walked over to Lily's room and peeked in. Her daughter slept peacefully, one arm wrapped around a worn teddy bear. Emily felt her heart crack all over again. I'll fix this, she whispered, no matter what it takes. She didn't know how yet, but she knew one thing for sure. No one was coming to save her this time. Emily visits the bank demanding answers. They show her paperwork with her forged signature, a crooked version of her name that looks just close enough to be believable but not quite hers. Her hands shake as she flips through the documents, page after page, all filled out with her personal information. This is not my signature, she says quietly, her voice tight. The bank manager, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, leans forward. We understand. That's why you're here. We want to help. But from our end, everything looked legitimate at the time. Here, we can show you the security footage. He leads her to a small back office and plays a clip from 8 months ago. Emily stares at the screen. There he is, Derek Carter, wearing a navy blazer, clean-shaven, confident as ever. He stands at the counter, handing papers to the teller. He laughs at something, shakes a hand, signs something quickly. Then he gestures toward the door like he's in a rush. On the application, he's listed as a business partner and authorized coordinator. Emily's name and information flash across the screen. She grips the arms of the chair, her knuckles white. He used me, she whispers. He really used. The manager sighs. I'm sorry, Mom. You'll need to file a police report for identity theft. We can't remove the debt until that process is complete. Emily stands up, dizzy, her legs stiff and weak. She stumbles out of the bank into the daylight, blinking hard, trying not to cry. People walk past her, laughing, checking their phones, buying coffee. Normal lives. Her world is cracking apart, and no one sees it. She doesn't go home. Not yet. Instead, she drives to the address Derek listed on the paperwork, a small apartment complex on the east side of town. She parks and stares at the building for a few minutes before getting out. She climbs the narrow stairs to apartment 3B and knocks. No answer. She knocks again, harder. The door next to it creaks open. A tired man in a grease-stained t-shirt peeks out. You looking for Derek? Yes. Do you know where he is? He moved out 2 months ago, the man says, scratching his beard. Owed back rent. Power got shut off. Landlord was pissed. Did he leave a forwarding address? The man snorts. He left behind an empty apartment, an unpaid electric bill, and a broken microwave. That's it. Emily thanks him and walks back to her car, hands numb. It's like he vanished. She doesn't even know where to begin. He stole her name, ruined her credit, and disappeared, and no one saw it happen. That night, after putting Lily to bed, she pours herself a glass of water and sits at the kitchen table in the dark. She stares at nothing. Then, without thinking, she dials a number she hasn't called in years. Hello? A tired voice answers. It's Sarah, her sister-in-law, Derek's older sister. It's Emily. Silence. Then, is something wrong? I need to ask you something, please. I don't have anyone else. Sarah hesitates, then says, okay. Emily takes a breath. Derek used my name. He took out a loan, $78,000. Forged my signature. He's gone. Oh my God. Sarah breathes. Emily, I'm sorry. You knew he was capable of this, didn't you? Silence again. Tell me the truth. Finally, Sarah speaks. He's done it before. Not like this. Not to family. He's always had a way of getting what he wants. A smooth talker. He pulled something similar on a woman he dated years ago. Got her to co-sign a car, then disappeared. But I never thought he'd do it to you. Emily's voice cracks. Why didn't you warn me? I didn't know you were still talking to him, Sarah says quietly. After he left your place, I thought you cut him off. I did. I thought I did. I'm sorry, Sarah says again, sounding smaller. We've all tried to cut him off, but he keeps resurfacing. He always finds someone new to trust him, someone kind. Emily hangs up without saying goodbye. She sits for a long time, staring at the wall, until her neck aches and her back goes stiff. Her thoughts keep spinning. The bills, the fake signature, Derek's smile on the security footage, Janice blaming her. She presses her palms against her eyes and breathes in sharply. This wasn't just theft, it was betrayal. Deep, personal, gutting betrayal. He knew she was vulnerable. He knew she trusted him. He came into her home after her husband died and used her grief as cover to plant seeds for this. For years later, he waited until she was just surviving, hit her with something she didn't even see coming. Emily felt like a fool, not just for letting him in back then, but for never checking behind him, for never asking questions, for thinking blood meant protection. But she wasn't going to sit in the dark and be broken, not again. Emily's credit tanks fast. One morning, she finds a letter taped to her door. It's official. She's being sued for defaulting on the $78,000 loan. The letter lists threats of wage garnishment, credit seizure, and possible liens. Her hands tremble as she reads the words over and over, not really understanding how this became her life. She tosses the letter on the kitchen counter with the rest of the unopened mail, red stamps and thick envelopes. She opens the fridge, a few eggs, a half-empty carton of milk, and a bag of grapes that's starting to turn. Rent is 2 months behind, and the lights flicker when she turns them on. That night, she heads to her janitorial shift at the office building, only to be called into the manager's office before she even punches in. "We have to let you go," he says, avoiding her eyes. "Why?" Emily asks, already knowing. "Your background check flagged something. A pending civil case. Financial fraud." Her mouth drops open. "That's not me. That's... someone stole my identity. I'm sorry, Emily. I really am. But corporate won't let us keep you on the payroll. It's out of my hands." She walks out to her car in a daze, sits in the driver's seat with her hands still gripping the keys. Her chest feels tight, like something is pressing down on her lungs. She can't cry, not yet. Her body won't let her. Over the next week, everything unravels. She misses rent, again. She ignores the landlord's calls. She knows what's coming. At the grocery store, her debit card declines in front of 2 other mums from Lily's school. One of them, Claire, who used to invite Emily to birthday parties, avoids eye contact and quickly walks away. Later, she hears a whisper at pickup. She's in some legal thing, loan scam or something. Emily doesn't say anything. She just holds Lily's hand a little tighter. That night, Lily sits at the kitchen table with her homework and asks, "Are we going to have to live in our car?" Emily stops washing the dishes. Her hands are shaking again. "No, baby, I won't let that happen." "But the lights keep flickering," Lily says quietly. "And there's no snacks anymore." Emily forces a smile. "Things are just tight. It'll get better." Lily nods, but her eyes look older than they should. That night, after Lily falls asleep, Emily takes a bottle of wine from the very back of the cabinet. It's left over from a friend's housewarming last. She pours a small glass and sits at the table. She doesn't even like the taste. She just wants to feel something different, or nothing at all. 1 glass becomes 2, 2 becomes 3. It's the first night she sleeps more than 5 hours. The next few days, she keeps drinking. Not enough to be drunk, just enough to shut her brain off after Lily goes to bed. She doesn't answer calls. She doesn't open mail. She doesn't speak to anyone at school. She feels like a ghost in her own body, floating through the day with a fake smile and a growing, hollow ache in her chest. On Thursday, a woman from Lily's school calls. "I'm not trying to overstep," she says, "but we've had some concerns. Lily mentioned food being scarce, and some parents have raised questions about your current financial stability." Emily sits frozen on the couch, phone pressed to her ear, eyes locked on the peeling wallpaper in front of her. "I'm doing my best," she whispers. "I just lost a job. I'm not neglecting her." "Of course. We just want to make sure she's safe and supported. If you ever feel overwhelmed, we can refer you to services." Emily thanks her and hangs up. That night, she locks herself in the bathroom. She turns on the faucet so Lily won't hear her. She sits on the cold floor, knees pulled to her chest, and cries silently, full-body sobs that shake her. She presses a towel to her mouth to muffle the sound. Shame, fear, exhaustion. It all pours out. Then she hears a soft knock on the door. "Mum?" Emily freezes. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby," she says quickly, wiping her face, voice hoarse. "I just need a minute." "Okay. I love you. I love you too." When Lily walks away, Emily's eyes land on the mirror. She doesn't recognize the woman looking back at her. Pale, dark circles, eyes dull. She used to be full of hope. Even after Matt died, she'd promised herself she would build a life for Lily, a stable one, a loving one. Now she was drowning, and her daughter was watching her sink. She thinks, for one horrible moment, maybe Lily would be better off with Janice, just for a while. Janice has a house, money, structure. Emily can barely afford cereal. But then she remembers Janice's voice, cold, blaming. "Maybe you gave him your information." Number she won't let her daughter be raised by someone who'd rather defend a thief than protect a child. She won't give up. Not yet. But right now, all she can do is sit on the bathroom floor and cry. A chance meeting with Rosa, an older tenant in her building and former paralegal, changes everything. It happens in the hallway on a rainy Tuesday afternoon when Emily is dragging Lily up the stairs after school and sees Rosa carefully pinching an eviction notice off her own door. Emily glances away quickly, hoping to avoid eye contact, but Rosa's sharp eyes catch something. "Yours too?" Rosa asks, nodding toward the folded paper sticking out of Emily's bag. Emily sighs. "Yeah, second one this year," Rosa says with a bitter little laugh. "This building's a joke." Emily forces a weak smile and mumbles, "I'm sorry." "You look like you haven't slept in days," Rosa adds bluntly, leaning on her cane. "What's going on?" Emily hesitates, shifting her weight, but something in Rosa's voice, firm, steady, almost maternal, breaks through. The words spill out. Not all at once, but enough. The loan, the forged signature, Derek vanishing, the job loss, Lily's school asking questions. Rosa listens in silence, her expression unreadable. Finally, she says, "Come to my place. 10 minutes. Bring whatever you have." Emily's too tired to argue. She tucks Lily in early, heats up soup from a can, and then walks down the hall to Rosa's apartment. It smells like peppermint tea and old paper. Rosa's coffee table is stacked with manila folders, yellow legal pads, and a binder labeled Tenant Advocacy, 2006. "You said your brother-in-law forged your signature?" Rosa asks, flipping open a notepad. Emily nods. "You file a police report yet?" Emily blinks. "Number I didn't think. I just figured no one would believe me." "They won't unless you give them something to believe." Rosa hands her a pen. "Let's make a list." They start slow. Emily opens her laptop for the first time in weeks. Her hands tremble slightly as she types in her password. Inside her inbox are old emails from months ago, ones Derek forwarded her when she was still letting him handle things. One of them has a scanned copy of her driver's license she doesn't remember sending. Rosa leans in. "That's enough to start. He had your ID. That's how he passed verification." They work through the night. Rosa finds a template for filing a fraud claim and helps Emily complete the paperwork. They report the identity theft to the Federal Trade Commission. They call the credit bureaus. One of the representatives says gently, "You're not the first. It happens more than you'd think. We'll place a freeze on your file." Something about those words, "you're not the first," makes Emily's shoulders drop. Not because it fixes anything, but because it means she's not crazy. She's not alone. Rosa then helps her write an affidavit to send to the bank. It's short, factual, and filled with the kind of language Rosa says makes them pay attention. At the end of the night, Emily stands in the doorway of Rosa's apartment, holding a folder of papers and feeling something she hasn't felt in weeks. Hope. "Thank you," she says softly. Rosa shrugs. "Men like your brother-in-law count on women like you being too tired to fight. I've seen it before, but he didn't count on you meeting me." Emily laughs. It's small, but it's real. That night, Emily climbs into bed and pulls the blanket over her. For the first time in weeks, her thoughts don't spiral. She doesn't rehearse arguments. She doesn't imagine losing Lily. She doesn't flinch at every creak in the walls. She just breathes and sleeps. Emily and Rosa sit side by side in the crowded legal aid clinic lobby, their knees nearly touching, fingers tight around folders and old mail. Emily glances around the room, Worn carpet, buzzing fluorescent lights. People just like her, tired, desperate, hanging on by a thread. A volunteer calls her name. Inside a small meeting room, a young attorney named Caleb, no older than 30, listens carefully as Emily explains everything. Rosa chimes in with legal language and timelines, pushing papers across the table like evidence in a courtroom. When Caleb finishes reviewing, he leans back slowly. You have a strong case. He used your identity to access money and moved it through a shell company not legally tied to you. I can help you, but it'll take time and will need to be loud. Emily's heart races. What do I have to do? We file a civil fraud suit, he says. We'll subpoena the bank for the full paper trail. If he used a shell LLC, we'll track it. Once we prove financial deception, it strengthens your police report and clears you legally. Might even trigger a criminal case. She nods slowly. Her hands are cold, but she doesn't shake. She signs the intake form. Her signature is neat but hesitant. A few weeks later, Caleb calls with an update. Emily, we got the records. He transferred $78,000 into an account registered to Carter Solutions LLC, formed 2 weeks before the loan. The only listed member is Derek Carter. No mention of me? She asks. None, not even as a co-signer or partner. You weren't legally tied to that business in any way. This is identity theft and wire fraud. Emily exhales a shaky breath. Okay, what's next? Caleb files the civil complaint. They begin the slow crawl toward justice. A week later, a detective calls from Florida. Derek was pulled over outside Tampa on a minor traffic infraction. And when they ran his name, it flagged a fraud investigation from out of state. He was arrested on the spot. Emily sits on the edge of her couch, clutching her phone, frozen in disbelief. We'll keep you updated, the detective says. He's facing multiple complaints. Yours was the first with real documentation. You did the right thing. That night, she tells Lily the truth, in a gentle, age-appropriate way. Remember when I was sad about someone taking something that didn't belong to them? The police found him. Is he going to jail? Lily asks, voice small. Maybe, Emily says softly, but we're going to be okay now. The next day, she receives a voicemail from Janice, her mother-in-law. You've always been dramatic, Emily. You could have come to us instead of ruining Derek's life. Family doesn't take each other to court. He didn't mean to hurt you. Emily deletes it without listening to the rest. Another message comes later that night. You've embarrassed this family. I hope you're proud. But this time, the guilt doesn't land. Emily stares out the window with her arms folded, quiet and still. The shame is gone. She knows now that silence helped no one. Not her, not Lily, and not the next person Derek might have preyed on. She tells Rosa over tea, they want me to feel bad for him, for doing this. To me. Rosa nods knowingly. That's how they keep women quiet. Shame, loyalty, fear. But that only works if you let them stay louder than your truth. Emily smiles faintly. Well, I think I'm finally louder. That weekend, she and Caleb meet at the courthouse. The building is old and heavy with quiet. Emily signs her affidavit. She stares at the page a little longer this time, her pen steady. The ink dries under her thumb. Afterward, she and Lily celebrate by walking to the park. Lily swings high into the sky, laughing, hair wild in the wind. Emily watches her daughter, free, joyful, unaware of the weight her mother's been carrying, and now slowly setting down. Justice isn't fast or easy, but it's starting, and Emily is still standing. During the third week of court filings, Caleb calls Emily with a strange tone in his voice, a mix of surprise and finality. You might want to sit down, he says. Emily sinks onto her worn couch, bracing. A letter turned up, he continues, from Derek. A confession. What? His ex-girlfriend saw the news coverage. She went through a storage unit he left behind when he disappeared. Inside a small safe deposit box, there was a letter, sealed and dated 5 months ago. It's notarized, and it's pretty much everything. He pauses. Everything. Everything. It admits to forging your signature, using your ID without consent. He even says he planned to flee to Costa Rica. He called it his escape fund. The letter was titled, "If you're reading this, I probably got caught." Emily covers her mouth with her hand. Her chest tightens, not in fear, but in disbelief. A part of her had wondered if this fight would end in stalemates and court motions for years. But this could end it. I'll send over a copy, Caleb says gently. It'll be enough to seal the case. Your name will be cleared. The bank already contacted me. They're dropping collection efforts. They're calling it an unrecoverable fraud loss. When the envelope arrives the next day, Emily waits until Lily's asleep. She stands at the kitchen counter, trembling slightly as she breaks the seal. The first line hits her like a strange punch. If you're reading this, I probably got caught. The handwriting is unmistakably Derek's. Slanted, arrogant, casual. Emily, I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could pay it off before anyone noticed. I needed the money. Things were tight. I told myself you'd be okay. You always land on your feet. She blinks slowly. She reads on. I used your info because you were the easiest, the most trusting. You always were. I figured if it came back to you, people would believe you signed off. You're so responsible. Who would think otherwise? Her hands tighten on the paper. If I'm gone, it's because I had to be. This isn't just about you, but I guess you're the one who'll take the hit. I'm sorry. There is no remorse in the letter. Just fear. Just excuses. Emily folds it slowly. She doesn't cry. She doesn't scream. She feels something settle, like dust, like truth. Later that night, she stands at her kitchen sink. The letter rests in the metal basin. She lights a match and holds it just long enough to watch the flame catch the corner of the paper. It curls and blackens quickly, then folds into ash. She watches it burn, not with anger, but with finality. Derek's voice no longer lives in her head. His lies no longer hold weight. This was never her shame to carry. In the morning, she emails Caleb. Let's finish this. Emily walks Lily to school on a crisp spring morning, the kind that smells faintly of grass and new beginnings. Lily skips ahead, her backpack bouncing, humming something off-key but joyful. Emily's tired. There are still bags under her eyes, and her body feels like it's been through a war, because it has. But there's a lightness to her step that wasn't there before. They pass a bank window. Emily catches her reflection in the glass. She stops, just for a second. Her posture's straighter, her face sharper, quieter, but stronger. She doesn't look like someone who lost. She looks like someone who made it. At the corner, Lily hugs her tight before darting toward the gate. You don't look sad anymore, she says with a grin. Emily smiles, brushing a piece of hair behind her daughter's ear. I'm not. Back home, she walks up to the leasing office of a modest apartment building 2 neighborhoods over. It's smaller than the old place, but cleaner, quieter, safer. She sits at the office desk, pen in hand. The form is simple. Tenant, Emily Carter. No co-signer, no borrowed names, no lies, just her. She signs without hesitation. Later that evening, Emily sits alone in her new kitchen. The place smells like fresh paint and hope. She wraps her hands around a chipped coffee mug, a cheap thrift store find she now calls her favorite. She takes a slow sip, closes her eyes, and exhales. There are still bills. There's still work to find. But the weight pressing down on her chest is gone. She made it through, and for the first time in a long time, Emily Carter is not afraid of tomorrow. Hey besties, thanks for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share it with your friends. See you next time.